Hello, and welcome to True Crime Sleep Stories. Settle in, get comfortable under the covers, perhaps with a warm drink or the gentle crackling of a fire in the background. Tonight, we're here to unwind together, letting the quiet rhythm of a story carry you toward peaceful sleep. You can never judge a book by its cover. We grow up watching monsters on TV and in movies, grotesque creatures with fangs, claws, lurking in the shadows, designed to terrify at first glance. But in real life, the true monsters rarely look the part. They often come wrapped in a friendly face, a warm smile, a neighborly wave, or worse, the face of someone who's supposed to love you, protect you, hold you close. A spouse, a parent, a sibling, a partner. The very people we trust most deeply. We all know those peaceful neighborhoods. The trimmed hedges, the warm porch lights, the sense that everything is safe and ordinary. Families going about their days, neighbors waving hello, homes that look like they hold only normal, loving lives. But sometimes, just beneath that calm exterior, something darker lingers. Secrets tucked away in basements, behind closed curtains, in the quiet routines of people we think we know, people we might even call family. In this episode, we'll explore 4 such stories. Cases where the monsters wore the most disarming disguises, hiding unimaginable horrors behind everyday smiles and familiar routines. We'll move through them slowly, letting the details unfold gently like a late-night whisper. No rush, no startling jumps, just the steady flow of truth as you drift. Take a deep breath, relax, and allow the night to wrap around you. Before we begin tonight's stories, I want to share a quick personal note. As I researched and wrote this episode, the sheer brutality of these crimes, the way innocence was so cruelly violated, the deep betrayal by those who were supposed to love and protect, and the unimaginable trust shattered, truly broke my heart and left me shaken. My deepest sympathies go out to everyone impacted by these horrific events, as they always do. True crime podcasting can take a real emotional toll on those of us who create it, especially with so much heaviness in the world right now. So I think next time we'll shift to something completely different and lighter. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments or on social media. Please let me know how you're feeling. And now, without further ado, we'll take a quick break to hear from our sponsors before slipping into your full, uninterrupted episode. Welcome back to True Crime Sleep Stories. Now, settle in, dear listeners, because I'm going to tell you a bedtime story. The first case we'll explore tonight is that of Paul, Bernardo, and Karla Homolka, the couple infamously known as the Ken and Barbie Killers. Imagine a young, attractive pair in the late 1980s in Ontario. Blonde, polished, charming. Paul, a sharp-dressed accountant with a confident smile, and Karla, a pretty veterinary assistant with bright eyes and an easy laugh. They met in 1987 at a restaurant in Toronto, sparks flying instantly. To the world, they looked like the ideal couple. Good-looking, ambitious, destined for a picture-perfect life. They married in a lavish ceremony in 1991, complete with horse-drawn carriage and smiling family photos. Neighbors in their quiet St. Catharines suburb saw them as friendly, successful newlyweds living in a tidy home on a peaceful street. No one suspected the darkness unfolding behind those closed doors. But Paul Bernardo had already been living a double life for years. Between 1987 and 1990, he terrorized the Scarborough area as the Scarborough Rapist, attacking young women, often petite teenagers or women in their early 20s, late at night as they walked alone. He would approach them politely, then strike with sudden violence, raping and assaulting at least a dozen victims, leaving them traumatized but alive in many cases. Police searched for him, releasing sketches and warnings, but he blended seamlessly into everyday life, commuting to work, dating, hiding in plain sight. No one connected the charming Paul to the predator in the shadows. Then Karla entered his world fully. Their relationship quickly twisted into something darker, fueled by shared fantasies and control. Karla, eager to please Paul, began assisting him in ways no one could have imagined. The first horror came on Christmas Eve 1990 at the Homolka family home in St. Catharines. Karla's younger sister, 15-year-old Tammy, was excited for the holidays, laughing, opening gifts, surrounded by family. That night, while parents slept upstairs, Karla slipped animal tranquilizers stolen from her veterinary job into Tammy's drinks. As the drug took hold, the couple carried out a planned assault. They videotaped it all, Paul assaulting the unconscious girl, while Karla participated and filmed. In the early hours of Christmas Day, Tammy choked on her own vomit as her life tragically faded away. The couple panicked quietly, cleaned the scene, redressed her, placed her in bed, and called emergency services. Paramedics arrived to a tragic, accidental overdose. The family mourned, believing it a heartbreaking accident. No autopsy raised immediate red flags beyond a small burn mark on Tammy's face from the halothane anesthetic. The secret stayed buried. Emboldened, the couple escalated. In June 1991, 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey vanished from outside her Burlington home after attending a wake. She was last seen around 2 a.m., talking to someone near her backyard. Her remains were discovered weeks later in Lake Gibson, dismembered, encased in concrete blocks that had been dumped in the water. Fishermen found the grim packages floating to the surface. Leslie had been kidnapped, held captive, assaulted repeatedly over hours or days, then killed. The couple had lured her with their friendly appearance, then taken her to their home where the horror unfolded in privacy. Less than a year later, in April 1992, 15-year-old Kristen French disappeared while walking home from Holy Cross Secondary School in St. Catharines. She was grabbed in broad daylight near a church parking lot, forced into their car. For days, she was held in the couple's basement, subjected to prolonged torture, sexual assault, and degradation, all while they recorded it. Kristen fought bravely, but ultimately, she too was murdered. Her body was found dumped in a ditch along a rural road. The crimes shocked Canada when they unraveled. In 1993, police closed in on Paul for the Scarborough rapes after DNA evidence linked him. A search of the couple's home revealed hidden videotapes documenting the assaults and murders in chilling detail. Karla, facing the evidence, struck a controversial plea deal. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the Mahaffey and French cases, receiving 12 years. In return, she testified against Paul, portraying herself as a coerced victim. Paul was convicted in 1995 of first-degree murder in the Mahaffey and French killings, plus other charges, and declared a dangerous offender, sentenced to life with no parole for 25 years. He remains incarcerated to this day. The tapes, when finally viewed by authorities and at trial under strict publication bans in Canada to protect victims, revealed the full extent of their partnership in evil. What began as a seemingly perfect suburban romance had concealed unimaginable cruelty, all hidden behind smiles, a nice house, and the illusion of normalcy. These were people who shopped at the same malls, attended the same events, waved to neighbors, yet harbored secrets that shattered lives forever. Let that settle gently as we pause. Breathe in the quiet of the night. And now we'll move slowly into the next story, another where the ordinary masked extraordinary horror. The second case we'll explore tonight is the chilling story of John List and the family annihilation that unfolded in a Grand Westfield, New Jersey home in 1971. Picture a stately 19-room Victorian mansion on Hillside Avenue in an affluent suburb. Marble fireplaces, an elegant ballroom, polished wood floors, the kind of place that whispered success and stability. The List family seemed to fit right in. John Emil List, a 46-year-old accountant and vice president at a local bank, a devout Lutheran who taught Sunday school and sang in the church choir. His wife, Helen, 46, a warm but increasingly reclusive woman dealing with health struggles. Living with them was John's elderly mother, Alma, 85, who occupied the third-floor apartment. Their 3 children, Patricia, 16, a talented actress and drama student, John Frederick Jr., 15, active in soccer, and Frederick, 13, the youngest, rounded out what appeared to be a picture-perfect church-going American family. Neighbors waved hello, the kids played outside, the lights glowed warmly in the evenings. No one imagined the unraveling happening inside. Behind the facade, John List was drowning. Financial pressures mounted relentlessly. Job losses, bad investments, mounting debts on the mansion he could no longer afford. He felt profound shame, convinced his family would face humiliation if they lost everything. In his mind, twisted by rigid religious beliefs and despair, he convinced himself that killing them was an act of mercy, to spare them earthly suffering and ensure their souls reached heaven before any fall from grace. He planned meticulously for weeks, canceling newspaper and milk deliveries, informing the children's schools the family would be visiting a sick relative out of state. He even prepared a 5-page confession letter explaining his reasoning. On the morning of November 9th, 1971, John sent the children off to school as usual. Helen sat in the kitchen in her nightgown, sipping coffee. From behind, John pressed a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, his German-made handgun, to the side of her head and fired once. She died instantly. He dragged her body to the ballroom and laid it out carefully. Then he climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, where Alma was preparing breakfast in her small kitchen. He shot her once above the left eye as she stood near the storage room. She crumpled to the floor. The children returned home one by one that afternoon. Patricia and Frederick arrived first from school. As each entered the house, John shot them in the back of the head with the same pistol. Quick, efficient, no struggle. He arranged their bodies beside their mothers in the ballroom, covering them with sleeping bags. Then he made himself lunch, ate calmly, and drove to the bank to close accounts belonging to him and his mother, withdrawing what cash remained. Next, he attended his eldest son, John Jr.'s soccer game at Westfield High School, watching quietly from the sidelines like any proud father. After the game, he drove the boy home. In the mansion, he switched to his father's old Colt .22 caliber revolver. John Jr. fought back. Evidence later showed misfires and defensive wounds, but his father shot him multiple times in the chest and face until he fell. All 5 bodies now lay in the ballroom, faces hidden, arranged almost reverently. John played organ music over the house's intercom system, left his confession letter in his office, removed family photos from frames to hinder identification, and walked out the door. He vanished. The house stood silent. Neighbors noticed lights going out one by one, mail piling up. It wasn't until December 7th, nearly a month later, that police, prompted by a concerned drama coach and a neighbor smelling something off, entered through a window. They found the bodies, the confession, the eerie quiet broken only by faint organ music still looping. The crime shocked the community. How could a Sunday school teacher, a pillar of respectability, do this? John List had fled west, assuming the identity of Robert Peter Clark. He settled in Denver, then later Virginia. He remarried, worked as an accountant again, attended church, and lived quietly. For nearly 18 years, he evaded capture. Then, in 1989, the case aired on America's Most Wanted. A forensic sculptor created a bust of what List might look like now. A neighbor in Virginia recognized the description and called authorities. On June 1st, 1989, police arrested him at his accounting job in Richmond. Extradited to New Jersey, List was convicted in 1990 of 5 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms. He showed little remorse, insisting in interviews that he had saved his family from shame and damnation. He died in prison in 2008, at age 82 from pneumonia complications, still claiming he would one day reunite with them in heaven. This was a man who balanced checkbooks by day, taught Bible lessons on Sunday, yet harbored a plan so cold it froze an entire suburb in disbelief. The mansion later burned down mysteriously, as if the house itself wanted to erase the memory. Let the weight of that settle softly as we breathe in the stillness. And now we'll ease into the next story, another where ordinary life concealed extraordinary tragedy. The third case we'll explore tonight is the Caffey family murders, a heartbreaking story from a quiet, rural home in Alba, Texas in 2008. Alba is one of those small, close-knit communities where everyone knows everyone, population around 500, tucked between pine trees and open fields. The kind of place where doors stay unlocked and kids ride bikes until dusk. The Caffey family fit right in. Terry Caffey, a devoted father and church music director in his early 40s. His wife Penny, warm and nurturing. Their daughter Erin, 16, a typical teenager working part-time at Sonic, and 2 young sons, Matthew, who they called Bubba, 13, and Tyler, age 8, full of energy and innocence. They lived in a modest cabin-style home deep in the woods along a gravel road. Simple, welcoming, with a porch light that always seemed on. To neighbors and friends at church, they were the picture of a loving Christian family, attending services together, sharing meals, raising their kids with faith and kindness. But beneath that surface, tension had been building for months. Erin began dating 18-year-old Charlie Wilkinson, a local boy with a rougher edge. Terry and Penny worried. He seemed older, more worldly, and they felt the relationship was pulling Erin away from family values. They set boundaries. No more seeing Charlie, no more late nights, focus on school and church. Aaron, headstrong and deeply infatuated, resented the restrictions. What started as teenage rebellion escalated into something far darker. Over weeks, perhaps longer, Aaron and Charlie discussed extreme solutions. According to later accounts from confessions and investigations, Aaron repeatedly expressed that the only way she and Charlie could be together was if her parents were gone. Charlie, influenced by the intensity of young love and perhaps his own troubled impulses, agreed to act. In the early hours of March 1st, 2008, around 3 a.m., while the family slept, Charlie Wilkinson, now 19, and his friend Charles Wade, 20, approached the house armed with a .22 caliber pistol and 2 samurai swords. Wade's girlfriend, 18-year-old Bobby Johnson, waited in the getaway car. Aaron, according to the plan, was with them outside, waiting. The intruders entered quietly at first. They moved to the first-floor bedroom where Terry and Penny slept. Charlie fired shots. Terry awoke to the chaos, bullets striking him multiple times in the chest, arms, and face. Penny was shot as well. Then, to ensure she was gone, one of them used a sword in a brutal, unspeakable act. The gunfire woke the boys upstairs. Bubba and Tyler, terrified, called out for their parents and barricaded themselves in Aaron's room. The killers went upstairs. Bubba cried out, "Charlie, why are you doing this? No, please." Charlie and Charles forced the boys out. Bubba was shot in the face and fell. Tyler, the youngest at just 8, hid in a closet. The men took turns stabbing him repeatedly with the sword until he was gone. Terry, gravely wounded but clinging to life, heard the horror unfold. Believing everyone was dead, the attackers set the house ablaze to cover their tracks and fled. Flames rose quickly in the wooden home. But Terry, driven by sheer will and the desperate need to identify the killer he recognized as Charlie, crawled through the burning house, out a window or door, and across the dark yard to a neighbor's home over an agonizing hour. Covered in blood, shot 5 times, he reached safety. From there, the neighbors called for help. He told authorities what he'd seen and heard. Emergency responders arrived to a scene of devastation. The house engulfed. 3 bodies inside, Penny, Bubba, and Tyler, victims of gunfire and stabbing. Terry was rushed to the hospital fighting for his life. Aaron was reported missing at first, heightening the mystery, but as investigators pieced things together, starting with Terry's clear identification of Charlie, suspicions turned quickly. Within hours, all 4, Aaron, Charlie, Charles Wade, and Bobby Johnson, were located at Wade's mobile home and arrested. Confessions followed. The plot had been discussed for weeks, with Aaron insisting on the murders rather than simply running away. Charlie and Charles carried out the killings. Bobby drove. Aaron waited outside during the act. The small community reeled in shock. How could a sweet girl from a good family orchestrate such violence over a forbidden romance? The case drew national attention for its brutality and the young ages of those involved. All 4 pleaded guilty to avoid trials that could have brought the death penalty. Charlie Wilkinson and Charles Wade received life sentences without parole. Bobby Johnson, as the getaway driver, received a lengthy term. Aaron Caffey, tried as an adult, was sentenced to 2 life terms, with eligibility for parole after about 40 years. She remains incarcerated. Terry Caffey, the sole survivor, endured unimaginable grief. Yet in time, through his faith, he spoke publicly of forgiveness, not excusing the acts, but releasing hatred for his own healing. He even visited Aaron in prison, sharing that journey in interviews and a book. This was a rural Texas home where faith, family, and quiet nights should have meant safety. Yet a teenage romance twisted into a plan that destroyed almost everything in one night. Let the quiet sorrow of that rural setting drift away. And now we'll ease gently into our final story, another where the everyday normalcy hid the unthinkable. The fourth and final case we'll explore tonight is the Iowa City Sepple murders, a devastating family annihilation that shattered a quiet suburban neighborhood on Easter Sunday night in 2008. Iowa City is a college town with tree-lined streets, friendly porches, and families who wave across yards. The Sepple home on a peaceful cul-de-sac fit perfectly. Stephen Sepple, 42, a respected former bank executive, clean-cut, involved in community activities, the kind of man who coached Little League or helped at church events. His wife Cheryl, 42, warm and devoted, a stay-at-home mom focused on their 4 adopted children, Ethan, 10, bright and active, Seth, 9, full of curiosity, Mira, 5, sweet and playful, and little Eleanor, just 3, the baby of the family with big eyes and giggles. They celebrated holidays together, Easter baskets hidden, church services attended, family dinners around the table. Neighbors saw a happy, stable household, the American dream in a modest home with bikes in the driveway and holiday lights glowing. But behind the closed blinds, Stephen was crumbling under immense pressure. He'd been indicted on federal charges for embezzling hundreds of thousands from the bank where he worked, forging documents, diverting funds in a desperate bid to maintain appearances. The shame was overwhelming. He feared prison, financial ruin, the loss of respect from his family and community. In his mind, the weight became unbearable. Rather than face the consequences, he chose a path of irreversible darkness. On the evening of March 23, 2008, Easter Sunday, while the children played and the family wound down from holiday festivities, Stephen waited until the house grew still. Cheryl was likely killed first, struck repeatedly with a baseball bat as she rested or prepared for bed. The children, sleeping, were next, each bludgeoned with the same weapons until life left them. The scene was brutal, multiple blunt force traumas to heads and upper bodies. The bats left behind as silent evidence. Stephen moved methodically, ensuring no one survived to witness what he believed was coming. He then attempted to end his own life earlier in the night, leaving voicemails and writing a 4-page handwritten note addressed to surviving relatives. The note detailed the killings step by step, a grim confession explaining his actions, his failures, and why he felt this was the only way to spare them further pain and humiliation. He tried to asphyxiate himself but failed, or perhaps couldn't follow through fully. Instead, he left the note in the kitchen, completed after the murders, matching the evidence and autopsies perfectly. In the early morning hours of March 24th, around 6:31 a.m., Stephen called 911 from his cell phone. "Please come to my house immediately," he said calmly, then hung up without giving his name or address. 5 minutes later, at 6:36 a.m., Stephen drove the family minivan onto Interstate 80 just outside Iowa City. Police, tracing the number, rushed to the home. They found the horrific scene: Cheryl and the 4 children dead in their beds, the house quiet except for the weight of what had happened. Witnesses saw Stephen's vehicle speeding erratically before it deliberately slammed into a concrete abutment at high velocity. The van burst into flames on impact, consuming Stephen in the wreckage. His suicide completed the tragedy. The community was stunned. How could a man who seemed so ordinary, successful career, loving family, active in local life, commit such an act? The Easter timing added layers of sorrow. Families across town had celebrated resurrection and hope, only to learn of this unimaginable loss. A massive funeral drew over 1,000 mourners, honoring Cheryl and the children, Ethan, Seth, Mira, and Eleanor, in a shared service that tried to find light amid the darkness. Investigations confirmed the motive: financial crimes, mounting debt, fear of exposure. No signs of abuse or prior violence, just a sudden, catastrophic break under pressure. The case became a stark reminder of how hidden struggles, mental health, shame, desperation, can erupt behind the most ordinary doors. This was a suburban home where laughter once echoed, where Easter eggs were hunted, where bedtime stories were read, yet one man's despair turned it into a place of terror and final silence. Let the hush of that early spring morning linger softly. We've now walked through 4 stories, each one a quiet neighborhood, a seemingly perfect life, concealing shadows that no one saw until it was too late. From the polished couple in Canada, whose charm masked unimaginable cruelty, to the father in New Jersey who believed he was granting mercy through murder, to the twisted teenage romance in rural Texas that spiraled into vengeance and loss, to an Iowa tragedy where a banker's hidden crimes led to the unthinkable on a holiday meant for renewal. These cases remind us how fragile the facade of normalcy can be. Evil doesn't always lurk in dark alleys. Sometimes it sits at the dinner table, coaches the game, waves from the driveway. Yet even in these shadows, there are threads of resilience, survivors who forgive, communities that rally, truths that eventually surface. As you ease into dreams, hold this quiet thought close. Treasure the light you see in the world, in the friendly faces and caring hands that surround you. Yet remember that true monsters rarely announce themselves. They often wear the most disarming disguises, the ones we trust without question. True Crime Sleep Stories is hosted and created by Kelly Brink, produced with the support of our dedicated team. Subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform to help us keep telling these haunting tales. Visit patreon.com/KellyBrink for exclusive content and to join our community. Thank you for listening, and we'll meet you in the shadows next time. Until then, stay safe out there and lock your doors. Good night.